This is Adam Taxin talking with Daniel Greenfield, Sultan Knish, whose columns can be found at sultanknish.blogspot.com. His column for Saturday, June 30th, 2012 is There Ain't No More Middle Ground, which is a somewhat self-explanatory title. Basically, you're talking here about the difference between freedom and slavery, nothing less, right?
That's essentially where we are. It's not completely where we are, but it will be given a little more time.
Yeah, Michael Savage talked last night that the U.S. has reached the point of no return, that this is now a socialist country, a dictatorship. Is that fair to say?
We're certainly headed along that track, and the government is increasingly functioning that way. It's functioning outside the law, and at some point it's going to be functioning completely outside even the referendum of the ballot box, at which point it will just become a formal dictatorship, no matter what else it calls itself.
You make an interesting point in here, and people should read the whole thing. We hear a lot about the First and Second Amendments, but you're also talking about the Third Amendment here. Can you talk about how that relates to the situation in which freedom-loving Americans who really just want to be left alone, how the Third Amendment relates, even though we hardly ever talk about it?
Yeah. The Third Amendment is the lost stepchild. It's the one we forgot about, it's the one we don't pay any attention to, because it really has never come up. It's one of the least controversial amendments because it's one that the government station quarter troops in people's homes, which is what the Third Amendment says. But they're not quartering troops in our home yet, but they are quartering massive amounts of bureaucratic troops, and those troops obviously are in our home in a practical sense. They're in our kitchen, or in our bathroom, in our bedroom. They're telling us the details of how to live our lives, and they quarter themselves in these giant marble bureaucratic fortresses that exist simply to command every aspect of our daily lives, and that's what really this is coming down to. We have an occupation army. The army of occupation is the vast bureaucracy created by the left and supported by the right.
Yeah, I love the points you make about that. I forgot where it was. You make an analogy to chess in here, which I really like. Can you talk about how chess relates?
There used to be, if you've seen movies or some illustrations, they used to play chess with human chess pieces. People dressed in costumes as chess pieces. That's really where we are at now. We've got a regime that doesn't see people as people, certainly not as individuals, but as part of this vast chessboard, different pawns that they all have to get into line, position, move forward, play, divide, and conquer with, and keep advancing, not as people who have any significant individual rights, any individual autonomy, just pieces on the board.
Right. What would you tell someone who, just in the last few days, has woken up? This might be the case for most of your readers, who I imagine are pretty with it, but someone who says, oh my God, what is happening to our country? What would you recommend that they do at this point if they really want to get up to speed as quickly as possible and do something about the coming tyranny?
Well, the first thing is to recognize, as the title says, that there is no middle ground. You're not just going to be left alone. There isn't going to be a thing where you're going to be able to move out west or anywhere else, where you're going to be able to stay under the radar and just wait for the whole thing to blow over. It's not going anywhere. It's not, being left alone is not an option. Neutrality is not an option. That's not the rules that we made, it's the rules they made. Neutrality would be very nice if it would be a free country if neutrality was an option. It's not. Now that we've taken neutrality off the table, the thing to do at this point is to push back. Now, there are any number of ways to push back. I'm not a collectivist. I don't necessarily think in terms of organization. But the first thing to do is to remember that freedom comes from within. It comes from the individual. The most important possible duty of every citizen is to continue to think of himself as a free person and to act that way. That means when dealing with government bureaucracy, that means when dealing with elections, that means when dealing with anything involving authority, you have to go into every situation keeping in mind that you're a free person, and your responses will follow from that.
All right, Daniel Greenfield, very powerful column once again. It is There Ain't No More Middle Ground. It can be found at sultanknish.blogspot.com, and I suggest people who really want to get up to see it just start going through your archives because there's so much in there. Thanks again.